Welcome to Body by Design. I'm your host, Blue Driver, a women's strength training and metabolism coach. I went from years suffering hormone imbalances, looking soft and bloated, to symptom-free and building muscle for a toned athletic physique. Since then, I've made it my mission to empower women to take control of their own health, hormones and body composition. So grab a cup of coffee and let's build your body by design. Welcome back to the Body by Design podcast. And today I have a very special guest, Tash Story, and she is from Tash Fearless Training. I will put her links below for Instagram and everything for you all. Sorry, I'm playing with my computer, putting the screen in the right spot, and I fucked it up. There we go. I'm back. Sorry. So yeah, Tash and I came across one another through business coaching, which has been awesome. And I just noticed that there was a lot of alignment that Tash and I had in the type of women that we train and some of the principles that we work on and things that we align with. So it'd be really great to get her on. Let's start. Tash, welcome. Thank you.
Hello.
Start with a little bit about you. Who are you? What do you do? Where do you come from?
Yeah, so I am in Bristol, England. I have been an online coach exclusively online for the last 2.5 years. Prior to that, I worked in gyms. Prior to that, my background is actually in mental health, and that's what I did for 10 years, 10, 15 years, something like that. And then had my kids. Didn't get into exercise until after I had my kids. And for me, there was a big missing piece of the puzzle in exercise and the female body and people just not understanding it. So I was like, right, I'm going to basically become what I needed.
Yeah.
And now I probably don't work with as early kind of postpartum women as I used to, but I do work with mums, and I would say my process is very holistic, as I know yours is, because we know that dropping body fat, building muscle is so much more than just giving someone a diet plan and calorie count and telling them to get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely holistic. I love that. So one of the reasons why I invited you on is I see that running theme that you obviously see as well. And rather than making this podcast all about the health, the fitness, the body fat, the muscle building, we hear a lot about that. But given that we're both looking at the holistic side, one of the sides that I look at is like the mindset around everything. And I think we have been, as women in society, we've been pre-programmed to always put ourselves last. And it flows over into health. So of course, then when we have these health issues or body composition issues that we want to change, a lot of women find it difficult to prioritize themselves in that. And that's kind of one of the ones that Tash and I are just going to wing it today, because it's something that we both really are quite passionate about, and making sure that women realize that we need to put ourselves first. And I think it starts really early on that we get this pre-programming. It comes from society.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it definitely amplifies once you have children, but I think it starts before that, even when you move in with a partner, that kind of like historical, as you say, like programming. Like I know for a fact when I moved in with the father of my children before we had kids, instantly I took on the housework, even though we both worked full time. We were both equal breadwinners. One wasn't earning more than the other. And instantly you take on that role. And I think it starts from there. But then once children are brought into it, and when we start to think about, so already you're losing time by doing things like the housework, and then finances come into it. And investing in yourself as a woman becomes so much harder because you feel like it's all kind of pinned on you, like you're the underpinning person holding kind of everything together, because you take on so much of the load already. As what we were just saying before we jumped on to speak for the podcast, and I was saying it starts from when we have children, and it really does start that early on when the woman she leaves, finishes work, goes on maternity leave to have the baby. And then when she's considering returning to work, and I don't know what the kind of childcare costs are like in Australia, but here they're
astronomical. We do get rebates from the government, but really, the average worker is probably spending all their wage by the time they do fuel, lunch, childcare. They've spent all their wage.
Yeah, it's crazy. And the discussion is always, when a woman returns to work, the discussion immediately is, how much is it going to cost me to return to work and put my child into childcare? And then from that, they deduct how many days a week they're going to work. So actually, financially, it makes sense for me to work 3 days instead of 5. No one looks at the husband's salary. No one goes, oh, well, actually, you're earning X amount and it's costing this amount for our child to go into childcare, so you need to drop a day. That conversation just isn't had, which is
it's not had. It's really funny. It still all works predominantly around, and look, I'm sure there are a lot of women that are like, but I choose that because I want to be with my kids and things like that, and I get that side too. But just opening this conversation around, there are actually other options. And why is it all falling on the woman? And I do feel like it's gone from, yes, very traditional, if you look back in the 50s and the woman was at home, but the woman didn't have to work. So yes, we took on the house load, and yes, we took on the brunt of raising the children. So unless you're in a position, which not many people are these days, to be able to have a single income household, when it comes to going back to work, but the burden, the pressure does tend to fall on the woman. I remember when my partner and I got together, so he had kids, I had kids from divorces, but we were living together, and I think his daughter was unwell or something. And this actually came from another young woman in his workplace. And it was like, he was like, right, got to go, sick, got to go pick her up from school. The rest of it was like, well, why isn't Lou doing it? One, I did it last time, the last child that was sick. Two, it's his children, not mine, right? So there was just this assumption that it should be Lou that goes and picks up the kids. And prior to me getting into fitness and online coaching, I actually worked in healthcare as well, and had a lot of administrative staff underneath me. And the sick leave rate for these women, and I felt for them, but the sick leave rate for these women was extremely high, and they were even trying to juggle their sick leave balances. But the husband was never taking time off work when the kids were sick. It was always the mum doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's almost like that's been kind of set now as that's the status quo, like that is what we do. And I don't know how we change that, but I think it definitely starts with having conversations like this and just getting people to think, and getting men to think about it as well, because I think that status quo is so ingrained that actually sometimes men just don't stop to consider that. And this is something I do talk about on my stories and in my posts quite a lot. And last week I actually had 2 men message me saying, just reaching out, want to say, like, I really appreciate your content. It's made me think a lot more about actually what my wife does. And I was like, those were like the 2 best messages I've had in such a long time.
That's the change. That's the change there. When you get another man reaching out on social media going, you've really made me look at what my wife does. That's awesome. That's awesome that your message is getting out there. You made the comment about how do we change it, and I think in society there's like this innocent, I don't think it's meant to be. So we've got historically, the woman stayed home and all the rest of it, and it's like shifting those values. But then, and I think we're doing a good job at trying to do like shift the values that women can work, and they don't have to do just housework and things like that. But then there is this, it's the self-sacrificing for me. It's not even necessarily that, oh, well, the woman automatically takes the housework or, things like that. It's more the self-sacrificing thing. And there seems to be this commentary in society where, isn't she such a good mother? She does everything for her kids. Isn't she such a great wife? She's so supportive of her husband's career. So women receive praise when they sacrifice everything of themselves to give to others, and it is seen as the good wife or the good mum. So I think subconsciously that's being programmed into women, and then they don't even realize they're doing it half the time.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something like I've got a son and a daughter, and but even I will sometimes catch myself saying things and I'm like, why have I just said that? Like things that are like you don't think twice about, that are like generational comments. And sometimes I think eliciting that change is really catching yourself out, not beating yourself up for saying like something to your son or your daughter that you know kind of feeds into that, but being like, I can't believe I just said that, and then making the effort to not say it again.
And just redirect and correct, at least if the kids are seeing that you're redirecting and correcting, they can see that change happening. But this
Yeah.
whole self-sacrificing thing is where women get themselves into the health hole that they need to
Yeah.
dig out of. And then it compounds that when they know they want to and they know they want to put themselves first, they find it so hard to do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think this is where the kind of permission problem kind of comes
Mm,
in that I think women then seek permission to give themselves that time
mm,
to put themselves first, because it's ground into us, as you said, from such an early age, to be the good wife, the good mum,
mm.
and that our needs are essentially less than our children's or our partners.
Yeah.
And
And
then
sorry, go
go
on.
on. I was going to say, and then when a woman gets to a stage in her life where she's like, all of a sudden comes out of that bubble of early having children, when they're very young, and you come out of that bubble and then you realize, actually, I feel shit about my body. I don't feel good. I'm opening up my wardrobe, nothing in there fits. And then that starts to affect confidence, and it just can escalate. And then women are not in a position where they feel like, actually, I'm going to take the time and the money to invest in myself. That is such a big step for so many women because of everything we've spoken about.
And sometimes they just literally don't know how to organize themselves around all of that. A classic example of a client of mine, I won't bring her name into it, but I remember when talking to her in the DMs before she signed up with me, and it was like, well, I don't have time because, you talk about with the young children, but then you kind of get into that 40 age group and they don't have their kids anymore. They feel a little bit lost, but then they also start caring for parents as well. So you kind of get that transition where the parent care and now they feel responsible for caring for the parents. And this client of mine actually had a bit of both going on. She's still got quite young children. Her mum had passed away and she was left caring for her dad. And the conversation was literally around, well, by the time I get up and get the kids done and get them to school and then I go to work and then I start cooking dinner, it's 3 o'clock before I eat because I don't have time to. And the realization when it was like, you don't have time to eat. Well, yes, I got to do everything for everyone else. Well, if you don't eat, you die. So how are you going to do everything for everyone else? Like, if you really want to get really cut and dry about it, how are you going to sustain this and be there to go help your dad or be there to drop the kids off for school if you run yourself into the ground? You're literally saying, like, it's a basic human need to regularly eat through the day, and you're literally saying you can't eat until 3 because you're so busy doing everything for everyone else. And sometimes I think we're our own worst enemy. It's not even necessarily the husband or the man or anyone putting that on us. Do you find a lot of that a lot of it is just guilt from women?
Yeah, definitely. And I always use the analogy of it's firefighting. So women are
Mm.
running their entire day, they're putting out one fire to the next fire to the next fire, but they're never checking how much water is left in that tank
Yeah.
until it's too late. And then they're burnt out and they hit that burnout and then everything can collapse.
And
Like
then I get them at
yeah,
perimenopause and they go, oh, it's perimenopause to why I can't lose weight. You've just ran yourself into the ground, you're nutrient deficient, you don't exercise, you've got lack of nutrients, and your hormones are shifting now. It's more like the hormone shifting is just fuel on the fire that was already there, to use that kind of an analogy. But now perimenopause gets blamed for all these escalated symptoms when really, and that's not to dismiss people who do have a really hard time, and HRT has its place, and I'm not anti any of that. So please don't come at me in the DMs and tell me I'm terrible because we get that. But it's more about the foundations haven't been in place and And these women have lived in chronic stress and depletion for so long from that mum guilt and that giving, that when they shift into that time of life where maybe they've got a bit more time for themselves because they don't have, young children, or their children have left home, but then their hormones shift and they think it should be a fantastic time, but they feel terrible, but they've just neglected themselves for so long, and they sometimes still can't see that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I had a conversation with someone the other day about actually investing in yourself. And once you start doing it, I would describe it as almost like addictive. Once you realize that investing in yourself, how good it feels and the outcome you get from that, you're just like, right, what can I do for myself next? And I know for me, like making that first investment in my health, which actually back in the day when my children were very little, was a gym membership that was about £100 a month. And I remember even making that commitment feeling huge. Now I spend like on my health like way more than that. But it starts from there, and then once you start seeing what you get from it,
You
and
understand the value.
yeah, exactly, and your like return on investment, and especially when we're talking about health, people, it's I think it's really underrated, the return on investment you actually get. Like for example, I've had two clients in the last 6 months that have got up and changed careers because they were just like, actually, I've realized through working with you, this is not serving me. This is what is causing my anxiety. I'm not enjoying it. I just hate my job. And they've got the confidence because they feel good in themselves. So they've got the confidence to apply for a new job, and they got their new jobs that completely like pivoted their career, and are now in like they have that return on investment that they never expected. And I just think it's that kind of return on investment that's so underrated and not spoken about enough.
They always come in for the body transformation and walk away with a life transformation, is what I see. When you look at it holistically, because we're looking at, you're talking about the confidence. So yes, okay, they come in for the physical transformation, but let's not dismiss that when you feel comfortable in your skin and you can just walk to your wardrobe and throw something on and walk out the door and not be pulling at your clothes and beating yourself down when you look in the mirror, that's where the confidence come from. So the physical certainly does help, but it doesn't help them in the way they think it's going to help them.
Yeah.
It's always such a surprise to them.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, like, I think although the clients that we work with are of a slightly different age range, I think we're both pulling women that are in survival mode and
100%
into their like thriving mode.
Yeah.
I think another kind of return on investment that I've picked up a lot more recently with my clients is sex life, and just like being able to hear that another woman is like happily like jumping into bed again with the lights on.
Yep.
Like, I mean, what better win is there than that? Just to have that like confident, like sexual energy.
It's a normal, natural human need and desire. And if that is one shut down in you and you're just like, yeah, don't even think about it because, I'm too tired, I'm too stressed, I'm too whatever it is. Well, one, that's telling you something about leading your life, but just having that confidence and that desire in you again, it's actually okay to want to feel banging hot again. It's actually okay. It's actually fantastic to want to feel desirable again. And I think the compounding effect comes from all of this when, in a family unit, you have traditionally, we have mum and dad. But if you don't have that great connection with your husband or partner or whoever it is, it leads to long-term tension. So lack of sex in the marriage will lead to long-term tension somewhere along the line. That filters into the children as well. They feel it. They might not know exactly what it is, but they feel that. So to be able to feel desirable, have the desire and the want, and not to feel exhausted all the time, that you actually feel like investing in some physical intimacy can change the whole dynamic of your home.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's that underration of investing in yourself that feels like at the time you're somehow like taking time from your children or taking money from the household. But when you're there at that beginning step, it's really difficult to, I think, envision how you're going to feel at the end of it. And I just wish I could like implant into every woman's brain, like this is what investing is going to give you. Because when you feel strong and confident in your body, you stop shrinking in the rest of your life.
And you learn you can do hard things because it's not easy when you've let your health go and you haven't prioritized. It really is hard to do. There's lots of challenges along the way. So apart from the confidence that it gives you, it also teaches you that you can do hard things. You are a capable woman that, can achieve amazing things. Just I see women's careers, marriages, even not that I have a lot of women that come in with kids, but women with younger children, their relationship with their children improve, even down to little things like they go, well, I had to get my steps in, so off I went, and little David wanted to come with me, so he's on his scooter. That kid thinks it's fucking awesome because he's got mum's undivided attention now. They're out on their walk and he's getting undivided one-to-one attention with mum. And yet mum's just doing it to get her steps. But can you see that, like how it just makes things flourish? I'm with you. If I could, no words can really explain the return on investment that you get. How do we convey that to women to get them to see that in the beginning, if you just put that little bit of time and get over that first initial hump of change, that what comes beyond that discomfort it truly is life-changing.
Yeah. And I think a big question that needs to be asked or thought about is for women to look at what their partners, husbands, boyfriends, whatever, what they're doing, what they're investing in themselves, because quite often that's such a difference in what the partner is investing. And I think that as women, we tend to like justify the spend, or I don't know if it's that we ask permission. Sometimes it is, and I've definitely, spoken to women where it is explicitly they do need that permission. But sometimes it's just like, oh, I need to like run it past my partner. I don't think they would be running it past you. Mine certainly didn't. And I remember when I first started investing in myself and I asked him, and then he also was like invested in himself health-wise, didn't run it past me at all. And his was 3 times the amount of mine.
Yeah.
And that's like we tend to like over explain and I just don't think that's really reciprocated. Like men are quite happy and easy, like they seem to find it easier to invest in gyms, hobbies, golf memberships, like technology, training. They don't really have that internal debate that women have, or like an identity crisis, I guess, about it. And I think the first thing for women, anyone listening to this, is to really think about like what is your partner spending? What are they doing? Are they questioning themselves in the same way that you do? And the answer is probably not.
And a lot of the time on the assumption that everyone is financially responsible and that that you can afford it and those sorts of things. I don't think they even care that you're spending the money, as in the male doesn't even care that
the
female's going and spend, or the partner doesn't care that, because at the end of the day, they just want you to be happy. We are the biggest self-critics, like that. What we look like, that roll of fat that we've got, the way that dress sits on us, the money that we're going to spend on ourselves. Like we are very, very critical to ourselves, yet, the whole conversation of, do I look all right in this? Yeah, you look great. You've just picked every part of your body apart and told yourself every reason why it doesn't look great. And he's just there going, you look great. The level of care that we think that they, not care as in they don't give a shit, but they just don't have that level of, they're just like, yeah, you want it. Well, I know that my partner's extremely supportive like that. We're both very financially responsible. Sure, I'm going to let him know if I'm going to do an investment, but it's not from the perspective of permission for sure. It's just, hey, heads up, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, yeah, that's what you want. That's what makes you happy. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. And I will say, I think like thinking back over the clients I've had over the years, I've probably had a couple where I've just thought, they've gone to like speak to their husband, and I've just thought, actually, your husband's a bit of a dick, like really unsupportive. But on the whole, like I've got a couple of women at the moment, there's stay-at-home mums. This is a perfect example of what we were just talking about. And there's one client in particular that I'm thinking of. She had to go and like double check, obviously, because it's you know, it's his
Yeah.
bank card, he's paying with it. So she's like, I'm gonna go and like ask him, and then I'll come back to you. And he was just like, she was the one really fretting about it, like, oh, it's this much money, what if I like fail, what if I can't do it, what if it blah, blah. And he was just like, do it, like you absolutely have to do it.
That's
Like
the
a
sort of
year
partner
later,
you
she's
want.
still with me, and her confidence has gone like bam, 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 bam. But it's, yeah, quite, as you say, quite often our partners are going to be more supportive than we think they are. I think the big thing is, I feel like men rarely ask, am I allowed to want this? Whereas women tend to ask, like, do I deserve this?
Yes. Yeah. The men know they
Yeah,
deserve it. They
yeah,
know they deserve it. So
yeah,
it's like just a do I want it or not? Whereas we're like, do we deserve it? Is it really that
yeah.
necessary? I wonder if some of it comes from, and again, it's this male female thing. And I know we've got all sorts of relationships out there these days, and I don't have anything negative to say around that. But when we come to, women carry and birth the children and need time off of work, and that does lead to often us being the primary carer, are we building up a lot of this guilt because once upon a time, the man was the provider and the woman stayed at home, and it was just, there was no questions asked
Yeah.
from that point of view. We've shifted over the years that women should be able to do everything. Well, we can. Do we really want to? I don't know. That's probably another whole other conversation. But we certainly can work and provide for ourselves and all that sort of stuff. But then we have children, and we actually are back to relying on the husband or partner to be the provider because we physically can't work. And in Australia, maternity leave, only in recent years, I didn't get maternity leave, paid maternity leave. There is a small government paid maternity leave in Australia now, but it's not what they earn normally anyway. And
No.
there was a time where there was no paid maternity. You got time off your job, but you actually didn't get paid. So you were financially tied to someone providing for you. And I think, you go from having money to relying on someone else, and it builds that guilt again, or that should I be, because it's almost like it's their money. We're losing our own value here by going, but I stay at home and I don't earn money. We're tying it all back to money. But when you look at the cost of childcare and all these sorts of things that it would actually cost, you've just saved the home huge amounts of money and cleaning and everything if you put it all together. But we
Yeah.
are tying it to that monetary value. And because we aren't bringing it in physically, we go, oh, well, we should check because, I'm not earning money at the moment. I feel like some of it stems from there as well.
Yeah, and I actually read the best thing the other day, and I thought, oh my God, everyone should start doing this, where a woman had charged her husband for having the baby, essentially.
Yep.
So she was like, right, well, every month I'm at home looking after our baby, you pay me X amount, because then that eliminated the guilt of like her needing to like
Ask
rely
for
on
money.
his
Yep.
finances, or because it's like, no, that's going into her bank account and she uses it to contribute to like the household or for her own stuff. And I thought, well, everyone
So
should
you
be
get
doing that.
some autonomy to go out and purchase a dress or some makeup or whatever it is that you want to do, or invest in a coach or a gym membership because you have money. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still the same amount of money coming into the home, but it takes that
Feel,
psychological barrier of I'm not
yeah.
earning away. But yeah, essentially I'm charging you for having the child because you're not paying for childcare, you're not paying for a cleaner, you're not paying for, a cook and all those things. That's all getting done for you. Yeah, that's a brilliant
Yeah.
idea. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I do think, and we kind of touched on this a bit earlier, that there is, like women wanting to do it all. And like over here in the UK, they changed the maternity and the paternity laws. A woman is entitled to 9 months off. I think only 6 weeks are like full pay, and then very similar to Australia, it drops down to like government amount. But now, and the father got 2 weeks off, but now that 9 months can be split between the mother
Yes.
and the father. And my sister and her partner, they did that. Um, I think it came in after I'd had my kids, but I was thinking about this and I was like, actually, like it's a great idea. But honestly, for me, I want that 9 months.
And that's, I did mention that earlier, that sometimes it actually is the choice of a woman to want to stay home and be with her children. And it's all these underlying messages that have been bred into society that leave that guilt that we can't just go, yeah, I'm at home and I'm doing a great job and I'm providing something to this family by doing that. We want to be there, but then in the back, there's that guilt little thing coming in that, oh, but I'm not earning money and I'm not contributing and should I chose to stay home with my children, and I wouldn't have gone back to work. I would have, if I had the opportunity, it would have been a no for me. I would have stayed, gone, no, I want to be with my kids. And unless my ex-husband had have gone, well, actually this is something that I really want. Obviously it's fair to share, but I certainly would have chosen to. But just because we choose that, we don't come last.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe it should be adopted in every country that the man does have to pay the woman to stay at home.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be
Yeah,
great?
yeah, because
I do
go on,
think that
yeah, I was just going to say
also,
the same as, go on, sorry.
I do think that also the kids, like if we can start doing that now and putting ourselves first, we're bringing our children up to see it. And I know that when I first started investing in my health and eating regularly, but what they actually see, I think the kids are so much more in tune to it than what we realize, is they literally see that you are a better, happier person. And I can guarantee you, if you asked a child, if you could have an hour of really fun time with mum or 3 hours where she's cranky, what are you going to choose? Less time, but a happy mum. And an example of that is when I started that and, eating regularly and I had more energy and I wasn't cranky all the time. We would be going out for the morning and the kids would turn around and look at me and go, Mum, have you got your snacks packed? Because if you get hungry, you're not happy. But it turns them into a carer as well. They go, hey, I'm thinking of someone else, but also they have picked up on the fact that you are a better person and you are better for me when you are well fueled. So they're checking on you. So it teaches them compassion to check on you and make sure, I think within a family, we should all be making sure that one another is caring for themselves. So I think it teaches them that, but they also understand that mum is a better person. And it's getting that across that, when you are happy, when you are healthy, when you have energy, you just have so much more to give. The little bit of time that you're taking out for you is actually amplified in how much you can give back.
Yeah, absolutely. And in my personal journey, that's been huge. So both of my children have got special educational needs. One's diagnosed with ADHD, the other's on the pathway to being diagnosed with ADHD and autism. And they've always been very challenging children, quite chaotic. It's if you were to if I were to tell you what the day looks like as an outsider, you'd be like, oh my God, how are you kind of coping with that? And people do ask me that. And I used to constantly run on cortisol, fight and flight, get through the day, as you say, barely eating, relying on coffee to just fuel me and get me going, and then eating crap in the evening where I was hungry, starving basically, and then feeling awful about it and being snappy, irritable, literally screaming at the kids sometimes. And then once I learned, and I don't even like calling it self-care because it's just basic human needs.
Feeding when I go back to that client I was talking about that wasn't eating till 3 o'clock in the afternoon because she had to take care of it. I'm like, it's a basic human need. It's not self-care. Self-care is going to a spa. Yes, okay. But you see a lot on Instagram about, self-care is not just all about spas, but I don't believe looking after your health and feeding yourself properly is actually self-care. It's just the basics.
It's the bare minimum that we need. And when you start looking after yourself in that way, the reflection and impact that has on everything else. And now I get through my day, I'm not running on cortisol, I'm eating. I always breakfast is a big one for me. If I don't have that big breakfast, like that cortisol will kick in
Yeah.
quite early on, especially because I
Mm.
do like a coffee in the morning as well. But just having like 3 meals a day, or always having like a snack in my bag or in the car, so that if, because things do, like, we know what it's like. Sometimes you are called out to do this or do that, and you might actually miss a meal because you're rushed off your feet. But I know if there's like a protein bar in my bag or just something that can, yeah, meet those basic needs for me, then I'm a much better human being to
Yeah.
spend time with.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're a great example, like listening to the challenges that you have. So you don't have the dad around to help you every day, and then your children have special needs, yet you were still making time for it. So
Yeah.
I don't have time. And I know that the woman who that is saying that actually believes it, that she doesn't have time. But if she's super, super honest with herself, she's got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Restructuring, being willing to invest in some food prep, be willing to learn about good options. Like I have always got beef jerky and some sort of dried fruit in my handbag, and it just kind of stays there. Because that way, if I'm out and I get caught, I know I've got some carbs, I've got some protein, it's balanced, it'll get me by. Just getting some education around that, and it just makes the world of difference, and it gives you back so much time. I prep on a weekend, so I like to, because I don't have the kids in the house or anything anymore, and it's just Dean and I, so I tend to do more bulk prep. So I bulk prep on a Sunday, spend 2 hours in the kitchen on a Sunday. But we don't spend an hour in the kitchen every night now, cooking, cleaning, all the rest of it. And I go to the gym after work.
Yeah.
But if I had to cook dinner and do the dishes every night, I wouldn't have time. So just carving out one block time and bulk prepping literally freed up my Monday to Friday week.
Yeah, I always like to, and this is how I encourage my clients to think of it, is it's like a gift to the future you.
Yes.
It's a, yeah, it's a present to the future you, and you're always so grateful for that.
Yeah,
But I
especially when
think,
shit goes pear-shaped as well. That's when you go, I so didn't feel like doing that prep on Sunday, and I dragged my ass into that kitchen and did it. And now I am so grateful I did it.
yeah, yeah. And I find I do a lot of work on, like, I call it like lazy mum meal prep, because there are like little hacks that you can do, like if you are cooking like a batch cook, say you're cooking a chili for a family dinner, double, triple that batch. Get some
Freeze.
in the
Yep.
freezer. Yeah, yeah. If you're already there chopping veg, it's probably going to take you an extra, what, 15, 20 minutes to chop double that amount, if that. No, and then you've saved yourself hours. But it's definitely, I think for a lot of my clients, the time issue is probably their biggest. It's almost like a mental block. But once they get over it, once they do that hour of meal prep and they see the results from that, then that's when the kind of cogs start turning and it kind of clicks for them, and they're like, right, I get it now.
And it is hard. I'll say it is hard in the beginning, particularly when you're not used to feeding you and fueling yourself well. You're not used to moving a lot, or whatever it is, and your energy. So you've got super low energy, your metabolism's really low, and you just feel like shit. You don't want to do anything. You don't feel like doing anything. I know I used to have to come home from work and have a half-hour sleep before I could cook dinner because I was so exhausted. And God forbid if the kids woke me up, I'd be as cranky as all. But if you can get part, if you can just do that initial hard part, and just for the first couple of weeks where it takes every ounce of energy to get that little bit of prep done, but then it gives you that regular eating, you're getting some movement in. Not only have you saved time with all the tips, tricks, prep, but you actually gain energy. So then the next time it comes to doing some prep or chopping some extra veg or just doing that little bit extra, it doesn't feel so fucking hard because you're not so exhausted.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't feel like you're dragging a ball and chain with you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And it just creates that like upward spiral essentially, or it kind of like snowballs positively.
That snowball effect. It just gets bigger and bigger, and it just impacts so many things.
Yeah.
If you can just dig deep in those first few weeks and just go, right, this is what I'm doing, and this is a must. I mean, women go, we talk about prioritizing, and it's like, oh yeah, but I don't have time. Would you ring your employer and go, yeah, well, I don't have time to come to work. I'm sorry. No, you wouldn't. It's a priority because you need money. So you make it happen regardless of how you feel. And that's just the way you have to look at it with the food prep or the gym or whatever it is. And then you just get to a part where it's normal life. And then one day you look in the mirror or you put that dress on that you haven't had for such a long time. And it's just such a feeling that's like, for once, I look in the mirror and I like what I see, and it just, and I even think it flows so well. I mean, you're in the energetic around the energetics and everything as well. But if we want to dive into that a little bit and just say, when you can actually put your clothes on and feel good and you've got that good energy, the energy you're putting out makes your day better. You attract better people towards you, not the cranky, shitty people. There's just so many things that if we just invested in us, our whole world changes.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. So, it's been awesome chatting with you. We might wrap it up here.
Yeah.
I love your whole vibe. I love the whole, it's okay to want a banging body as well. If you want to go and check out Tasha's page, she's very much about that. Tash, so you're probably more the 30 plus age group?
Yeah. Most of the women I work with are probably I would say range from early 30s to maybe mid 40s, something like that. Majority of my clients. Most of my clients have got children, not all of them. Majority do. It's very much because of my own personal journey through living in survival mode and putting everyone else first and not feeling good about myself or confident in any way. And the difficulty of moving out of that with a busy lifestyle. My personal journey has just put me in a unique position to really help women in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming, but also looks at those deeper layers as to what might be going on, that holistic process that we spoke about.
And I always think when you have a coach that has experienced something, so if this is landing with you when you're listening to this and someone Tasha's story lands with you, obviously always you want a coach that has education behind them and not just some sort of influencer, but coaches that have got that education but a similar experience behind them because they have lived it. It's always very different when a coach has lived it compared to a coach that just knows about it. So if that lands with you, really go check out Tasha's page. And like I said, in the show notes below, you will catch all of that. But thank you for joining me today. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, Lou. It's been great. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. Thank you. And if anything in this podcast lands with you, feel free to share it on Instagram and tag me at strengthtraining.nutritionist. And I will catch you next week.